Hey guys, it's Deronda. Today I'm going to show you how to make this white chocolate cake from scratch. Absolutely delicious. Everyone loves it. For the cake part, the ingredients you're going to need is 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of whole buttermilk, 2 cups of granulated sugar, 4 large eggs at room temperature, 1 cup of butter at room temperature, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract, and 4 ounces of white baking chocolate. And I'm going to show you how to melt this here in a little bit with boiling water. For the frosting part, you're going to need 3 cups of powdered sugar, 16 ounces of white baking chocolate, 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon, and a 1/2 cup of butter at room temperature. I'm going to first start by showing you how to melt your 4 ounces of white baking chocolate. Add 1 cup of boiling water over your chocolate. Give it a little stir until your chocolate has completely melted. That smells so yummy. You can use a whisk if you want. I just used a fork. Once your white chocolate has completely melted, and this took about 40 seconds to a minute, you can sit this off to the side. In a medium-sized bowl, add all your flour. Remember to set your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the beeper you just heard go off. That's the baking powder, baking soda, and the salt. Whisk these 4 ingredients until they're well blended. About 15-20 seconds. And then you can sit this off to the side. You want to set all of your frosting to your cake off to the side. Using a stand mixer to get our cake part together, I'm adding all the sugar along with our softened butter. You want your butter really super soft, and you see we need to soften it up a little bit more, and you can nuke this in the microwave on defrost 5 seconds at a time. Look what just 10 seconds in the microwave on defrost did. We're going to add it here to our sugar. I'm adding that 2nd stick of butter, and again I had to nuke this in the microwave on defrost to get this softness on it. Always add your sugar to the bottom of the bowl first. That way your butter won't stick and it'll blend very nicely in with your sugar. I'm using the paddle attachment on medium speed. We're going to incorporate the butter and sugar till it's nice, fluffy, and smooth. Also, be sure to scrape down the sides of your bowl as you go. This has been about a minute. I'm just going to take a spatula, scrape down the side of the bowl. I find it really easy to put your eggs in a measuring cup and add them one at a time. And we're going to incorporate the egg with the butter sugar mixture for 30 seconds at a time. Each egg. After 30 seconds, as you can see, we're going to scrape down the side of the bowl again, and we're going to add our additional egg. And we're going to beat for an additional 30 seconds until you get all 4 eggs beaten well in with your butter sugar. Next, we're going to add our 3rd egg. And again, 30 seconds is the magic number. Be sure to scrape down the sides of your bowl. So important in baking anything when you're using butter, sugar, and an egg mixture. We're going to add our last egg. Yippee! Our last egg we've added, and we'll go ahead and incorporate this. 30 seconds. Now, that looks absolutely fantastic. Next, we're going to add the vanilla and all that white chocolate that we melted in that 1/2 cup of boiling water. Starting on low, we're going to incorporate this well into our butter sugar mixture. Alright, and that looks great. Next, we're going to start adding the flour mixture 1/3 at a time, along with the 1/3 of the buttermilk. Starting on low, we're going to incorporate this until we can no longer see the flour. And again, you want to be sure to scrape down the sides of your bowl. I know you're tired of hearing it, but let me tell you, you will have one scrumptious cake. That looks fabulous, and then we're going to add another third of the flour along with a third of the buttermilk. Again, starting on low, and I'm going to scrape down the side of my bowl again. All right, now we're going to add the last of our flour along with the last of our buttermilk. Incorporate these until it's well blended. More or less, you can no longer see the flour. The cake batter is now ready for its prepared cake pans. I've got 3 9-inch round cake pans that I've lightly greased, floured, and I've added a piece of parchment paper to the bottom of each pan. You want to make sure you add a little all vegetable shortening to a paper towel, and you're going to grease the top part of your parchment paper. Add grease side up of the parchment paper into your greased and floured 9-inch cake pan. Equally distribute your cake batter to each 9-inch pan. Be sure you spread it out. These are off to that preheated oven on the middle rack for the next 20 or 25 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. Use your timer and no peeking. Taking my cake out of the oven, and as you can see, when your cakes bake and they're completely baked, they start pulling loose on the edge of your baking pan there. Using a toothpick, we're going to go in, no batter. This one was a little thicker, no batter. And back here, we've got one, no batter. Once your 10 minutes are up, I use a plastic knife. A plastic knife is not going to scrape up the sides of your baking pan, and it's so convenient to use. We're going to loosen the edges of each round cake. If you've greased and floured them very well, it should go very smoothly. Now, for each cake, you want them to have their own cooling rack. That way, we can transport the cake to the cooling rack without handling it, because then we need to let it cool completely. It should pop right out. And I did hear it. Very good. We use that parchment paper. You want to get that parchment paper off as quickly as possible, and look how beautiful that is. And you want this to cool completely. It'll take about an hour and a half before we start applying our frosting. So we can set this off to the side, and then for our next round cake, oh, these smell so yummy. Flip it upside down. It should pop right out. I heard it release. There we go. And again, you want to get that parchment paper off as quickly as possible, because if you let it set and it cools, it's going to stick here to your cake. So you definitely remove it as soon as possible. And do the same with your third layer of cake. All 3 cake layers, let them cool for an hour and a half. I've had my cakes cooling for about an hour, and now I'm working on the frosting. As you can see, I've taken the white baking chocolate, I've cut it down by just using a knife. I just go back and forth, turn it the opposite direction, and do the same thing until you got these little tiny bits of white chocolate. So the smaller the pieces, the better the mixture is going to melt. Add the boiling water over the chocolate, and it's going to start melting immediately. With the fork, toss it back and forth until all the chocolate has melted. This took about 2 minutes, and you can see there's little pieces in there. That'll continue melting from the residual heat from the water, and we can set this off to the side. In a medium mixing bowl, I'm going to add that softened butter. The softness of the butter will really make your frosting really smooth, light, and fluffy. We're going to beat our butter with a hand mixer. If you want to use a stand mixer, you may. I'm going to add that 1/8 teaspoon of salt with the vanilla. You just want to mix for a few seconds. Next, we're going to add about 1/3 of our powdered sugar along with our chocolate. And see how all that chocolate has melted? We're going to add 1/3 of this. Starting on low, mix it in until you can no longer see the powdered sugar. When you can no longer see that powdered sugar, we're going to add another 1/3 of the powdered sugar, along with an additional 1/3 of our white chocolate. And again, continue doing this until you get this all blended well. Time to assemble the cake. I used a flat platter. I've got my cake bottom right here. Want to put it in the center. Add a few dollops of your frosting. Now remember, this frosting is going to continue to set up because when the chocolate starts hardening, the frosting is going to be thicker. I don't go all the way to the edge because when I put the other cake layer on, it'll smash that frosting and it may run down over the side. So for the second layer, I'm going to add it right to the top like this. And again, a few dollops of the frosting. Go all the way over to the edge, leaving about 1/4 of an inch. For the third layer, I'm going to add the top part of the cake, not the bottom part, but the top part here, so we'll have a lovely little dome when we finish frosting it. Before I start frosting my cake, I use parchment paper and I put it underneath the cake so I won't dirty up my platter that my cake is on. And I just place the parchment paper all the way around. You want them in little squares. That way it's a lot easier to remove once you get your frosting on the sides of your cake. First, start by frosting the side of the cake. And by the way, if your frosting is a little too thin, go ahead and add extra powdered sugar. You can go ahead and beat it in with your mixer and your frosting will be a little thicker and it'll make it a lot easier to work with if it's too thin. Now that I've got the sides of the cake frosted, and you want to work quickly because this white chocolate is starting to set up, we're going to put a dollop of our frosting here on top. I just add the remaining. Spread it over to the edge of your cake. That is the proper way of frosting your cake. This is my natural raw coconut chips. Just add it for some texture and I think it just makes it look absolutely beautiful. You can use sweetened, unsweetened coconut flakes, coconut chips, or like I said, if you want to leave it off altogether, you may do that too. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and let it chill up to 2 hours before I cut into it because you want your frosting completely hardened. I've had this cake chilling in the refrigerator for 2 hours. Using a knife, I'm going to remove our parchment paper here from the bottom of our plate. You see what a lovely clean plate you get, and I'll just clean that up. You see how pretty and lovely that keeps your plate. And you're just going to continue removing your pieces of parchment paper. Be careful when you pull it out because you could pull out the frosting with it if you don't hold the frosting up against the side of your cake while you remove your parchment paper. See what our white chocolate cake looks like on the inside. I use a chef's knife. You can hear the crunching of that coconut there on the top. Frosting has really set up. You may even want to use a super warm knife to cut into it. Let's see what we got on the inside. Wow. Look how scrumptious that is. I'll put it over here on a serving plate. Looky here on the inside. That is one fabulous cake. Time to give this cake a try. Let's go right. Oh, that cake looks so moist. Wow. Definitely can taste the white chocolate in the cake. You can taste that white chocolate in that frosting. Very rich, moist, and you see how that just like springs right back. Very moist, loaded with white chocolate flavors. See how that frosting, it really firms up once you put it in the refrigerator. The moistness of the cake, I just can't get over. It's absolutely delicious. If you like white chocolate cake, you're definitely going to love this recipe. I'm Deronda with Foods 101. Give me thumbs up, leave me a comment, hit that notification bell to be the first to get my new YouTube food videos. Thanks a million for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you lovely people later.